China's defiant attitude after Trump threatens additional 50% tariffs. The reason why we took a sidestep here to understand Xi Jinping thought was so that we understand how they are going to retaliate, or if it's likely that they will stay defiant or remove their counter tariffs. And yeah, transgender woman. This is from Radio Free Asia. Transgender woman. This is literally Voice of America. Okay, this is American CIA newspaper. Transgender woman wins payout in China for electroshock conversion therapy. Ling Er wins unprecedented compensation after being incarcerated in a psychiatric facility. A transgender woman in China who won an unprecedented compensation. I feel like you can't do that in America even. The woman, known only by her nickname Ling Er for fear of reprisal, recently made headlines after winning 60,000 yuan, $8,300 in compensation in connection with illegally administered electroconvulsive therapy inside the Qinhuangdao No. 5 hospital in the northern province of Hebei. No, they do electroshock therapy in America and in other Western nations as well. I'm saying that I don't think you'd be able to win compensation against it. Japan also isn't perfect with LGBTQ rights, but they're not going to tell you to shut the f whenever you glaze Japan, Lamau. Yeah, that's the other part of this puzzle as well. Like, the greatest example I can give you is I Show Speed. Okay? I saw a very viral tweet on the timeline of what I suspected people would inevitably say. That I Show Speed was being paid by the government, or at least like being promoted by the government to show, like, they recognize the soft power capabilities here. They recognize that he was doing great work in like cutting through all of the anti-China propaganda by just like simply existing in China. And this person says, I suspected it before, but now I'm sure of it. The Speed China visit is being curated by the government to show off China to the young Westerners. No regular tourists would just show up and have all these chance meetings and opportunities to fall in their laps. Yes, there is probably some truth to this, but it is not nefarious in the way that you think it is. And the reason why it's nefarious is because this dude with 38 million subscribers also went to Peru. And when he went to Peru, he became the mayor of a town in Peru for the day. And I didn't see anybody go, Peruvian government is doing this kind of thing for I Show Speed. Ah, I suspected it. He went to Albania and hung out with the goddamn president. And I did not hear people go, well, he's in the pocket of big Albania. He's in the pocket of Albanians. Perhaps it is because he is a massive cultural ambassador. And that is precisely the reason why governments, when he comes over there, goes, oh, dude, yeah, let's show him a fantastic time. This is amazing. Do you understand? It's because China, the factor here in consideration is that it's China doing this. China is the foreign adversary. China is the reason why this is nefarious and scary and bad. Okay? And that's what I mean when we talk about, this is precisely what I mean when I talk about like the way that we approach China because of Western chauvinism is incredibly critical, more so than the way we cover any other country that is within the sphere of American influence. Even if they have the exact same problems, or even if they, act out in the same exact ways. That's it. And it's not like I don't criticize China. It's just that I apply the same critical lens that I do across the board. And people can't even, God forbid, entertain a moral playing field across the board that I might have. A universal morality that I might be applying in my contemporary analysis. That's what they get mad about. They expect the standards of foreign adversaries to be much higher than the standards we apply to our own selves or our own allies. I'll give you another example, not China. People fantasize about Palestinian existence being like this incredibly brutal, incredibly ruthless, Sharia law dominated, Islamist fundamentalist Salafist society. Okay? The irony, of course, is that many of America's actual allies directly in that region are like that. Palestine is not like that. We just suspect that they're like that because of Islamophobia, while simultaneously never actually demanded the government not give unlimited billions of dollars of weapons to a country that is exactly like that is currently doing a genocide or participating in its own violent conquest in a country like Yemen, for example. This is what is so frustrating. This is at the heart of a lot of people's criticisms with someone like myself. Why are Chinese so bad? I never said that. They're not. I used to think China was this big bad enemy, but over the years of looking at China and watching you, I really changed my mind. They're still not perfect, but they're definitely doing better than us in the US. Yeah, but that's it. That's the whole point. And I think these kinds of actions will also change people's minds about both China and also contemporary American politics, American existence, America being a stain on the planet. This doesn't mean that America should be destroyed. I'm not saying that. Okay, some people will say that. I'm not saying that. I think America or Americans that have engaged in war crimes should be punished. And I think America should offer reparations. Having said that, my smoke is not for the average Americans. I want to change their minds so that they also work alongside myself to make America a better place for the rest of the world in general. But of course, every single day we move further and further away from that. But at least in the interim, more people's eyes, I think, open to the reality that maybe China is not the big bad that was presented to them as such, and that maybe America is closer to that big bad with all of the actions that the Donald Trump administration has taken so far, both domestically and also around the planet. So let's get back to China's defiant attitude after Trump threatens additional 50% tariffs. The reason why we took a sidestep here to understand Xi Jinping thought was so that we understand how they are going to retaliate, or if it's likely that they will stay defiant or remove their counter tariffs and concede.
It's much more defiant. You brought up that phrase, mistake upon mistake. That is some of the language we heard today.
My parents are first-gen Chinese, and I've always been at odds and highly critical of China, even after going there twice in 2 separate decades. It was not until you who changed my mind and realized that China has a lot of issues, but they're not the big bad we make them out to be. That's crazy. That's how powerful American social conditioning is, where you could be like second-generation Chinese and be like, yeah, China is big bad, actually. It's really bad. They're eating rats over there.
From China's Ministry of Commerce, and it's taking a very strong stance. In fact, it also went on to say that China will resolutely take countermeasures to safeguard its own rights and interests. As far as what those countermeasures could be, we heard from a state media commentator who brought up the point that we could see more tariffs targeting agriculture, things like soybeans, which we know are so important to American farmers and the broader economy, even restricting or banning American films. We heard at a press briefing just about 4 hours ago from a spokesperson from China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The messaging there, very strong, very firm. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Pressure, threats, and blackmail are not the right ways to engage with China. If the U.S. disregards the interests of both countries and the international community, insists on launching a tariff or trade war, China will fight to the end.
Fight to the end. That spokesperson was also asked, would China sit down at the negotiating table with the United States? His response, China has not shown any kind of genuine willingness to have a substantive conversation. John, that's where things stand now, just past 7 o'clock in the evening here in Beijing.
Yeah, no, I know it's been a long day there in China, taking some measures to prop up its own markets. This is what you do if you're gearing up for a fight that may not end soon. Mark Stewart in Beijing, great to see you. Thank you very much.
The Chinese Commerce Ministry firmly denounced President Trump's threat to raise cumulative tariffs on China to more than 100%. That could happen as early as this week. Let's bring in CNN's Christy Lu Stout in Hong Kong for us. Christy Lu, great to have you. Trump ratcheting up clearly the global trade war with this new tariff threat. How's Beijing responding?
Well, Beijing is responding this way. It is calling Trump's 50% tariff threat, quote, a mistake upon a mistake, and it is vowing to fight until the very end. It was on Monday when we heard from U.S. President Donald Trump again when he ratcheted up the global trade war, lashing out at China for striking back. 50% tariff against Beijing if Beijing doesn't remove its.
How can we think we're in the right here? Like, how can any American at this stage, when their treats are supposed to be taken away from them for no reason other than greed, narcissism. What is this? News on Twitch? Twitch makes a deal to escape Elon Musk's suit, alleging X-ad boycott conspiracy. Twitch must meet certain conditions by the end of the year to get dismissal. Twitch has struck a deal with Elon Musk to eject itself from a lawsuit over an ad boycott. In a court filing, ex-lawyers provided no details. What? Oh, no. Bro, I'm cooked. I think my days on this platform might be numbered, boys. I'm not going to lie. Uh-oh. Elon Musk about to be like, hey, one of my main demands is that you ban HasanAbi Piker. Hey, yo, how much you want to bet you're getting banned as part of the deal? No, I don't think so. Nah, that would not happen. That would be crazy. All right, we'll read that later. We'll read the details of that later after we're done with the Chinese century of prosperity. Listen, I have my own ways of pushing back, okay? Let's say Elon wages war against little old me. I will go to China. I will become the greatest white monkey that the Chinese government has ever seen. I will become the greatest regime-pilled propagandist of China to slowly but surely work my way as much as a non-Chinese can through the Politburo all the way to win favors in the highest office to basically destroy the Tesla facilities piece by piece. Okay? I will collaborate with Benjamin Norton, and I will do everything in my power to become the Chinese party man with one singular purpose. One, obviously, to play a formative role in Chinese prosperity, Chinese century of prosperity, you know, inshallah. But also, secondly, to ensure that Elon Musk can never produce product out of China ever again if he were to come after me in this way.
Retaliatory 34% tariff, China is holding firm and China is pushing back. We heard earlier today from the Commerce Ministry of China issued a very defiant statement with this expert. Let's bring it up for you. The expert saying this, quote, the U.S. threat to escalate tariffs on China is a mistake on top of a mistake, which once again exposes the blackmailing nature of the U.S. China will never accept it. If the U.S. insists on its own way, China will fight to the end, unquote. The ministry also called for all tariff plans to be dropped and called for dialogue to settle differences. Earlier, we heard from the spokesman of the Chinese embassy in the United States who took a more measured tone, using language that we've heard time and time again during ongoing trade battles between U.S. and China. This is what Liu Pengyu said in a statement. He said this to CNN, quote, we have stressed more than once that pressuring or threatening China is not a right way to engage with us. China.
Look, as an Aussie viewpoint on China is a bit different and not as bad as painted for some of the internal stuff. They are imperial, though. Look at what's happening in the Philippines, in the South China Sea, etc. They have also threatened Australia even recently, basically saying that I see them just as bad as America, but not worse. No. Imaginary Nulla. Thank you for the 50 gifted subs. Can I talk to you? No. Why do you think gifting 50 gifted subs is a way to purchase some time on the broadcast? You can talk to me about what you want to talk here in chat. That's crazy. Thank you for the gifties, though. And no, I disagree with what the Australian chatter said. Okay. It's additionally funny to say China has the same imperial conquest ambitions as America does from Australia, which is, one, not only cucked as a member of the Commonwealth still to this day, but also double cucked because there are numerous CIA bases on your soil. As far as I understand, there are no Chinese intelligence agency bases on your soil. You should be excited because of your proximity that you become a vassal state to China when the Chinese century of prosperity is imminent. It's happening. I wish I lived in Australia and could see the fantastic ways in which Australia is becoming a vassal state for China. Okay? I think that's awesome.
China will firmly safeguard its legitimate rights and interests, unquote. Now, China watchers are watching all this very, very closely and believe that China is going to hold firm and China is not going to budge. It's not going to give up. It's threatened retaliatory tariffs.
Thank you for the 100 gifted subs. God damn.
34% set to kick in later this week on April the 10th. In fact, this is what Ryan Haas, a scholar at Brookings, had to say. He posted this on X just a few hours ago. I am skeptical that Beijing will blink on President Trump's recent tariff escalation threats. Chinese leaders understand holding firm will be economically costly. They are preparing the public to tolerate pain. Politics may drive decisions, unquote. So, Rahel, China apparently not expecting any trade breakthroughs, not expecting any off-ramp.
This is why I said J.D. Vance calling China peasants is going to literally, in my opinion, first of all, J.D. Vance calling China peasants is going to play a big role in this. It's a major mistake in the propaganda war, okay? This causes the Chinese population to hear that and immediately shut down. They will hold steadfast and firm, okay? So you cut away at the popular mobilization against tariffs. Also, the second issue here is business owners, right? Because tariffs are awful in the long term for all workers in general, because you know the cost of living goes up, or layoffs take place, all this stuff. But the concentrated power amongst the business owning class makes it so that their voices and their concerns are heard instantly, especially in a country like the United States of America. So when the bottom line of corporations are harmed in the process, as they will be, business owners can make a way larger fuss here in America than they can in a place like China. This is something that I don't even think the Trump administration would be able to overcome in a way that the Chinese administration absolutely would be able to overcome.
Here, not only that, China is digging in. Rahel, back to you.
Yeah, certainly. If they say we're willing to fight to the end, it doesn't sound like they're willing to budge, not at this point at least. Chrissy Lou Stout in Hong Kong. Chrissy, thank you.
We're also learning new details about what's happening behind the scenes at the White House as this chaotic tariff rollout.
Because it's like if money is fake, or at least like completely controlled by the government in China, like they can move stuff around to lessen the impact of no longer being able to sell to the United States of America, which would be their largest trading partner, okay, the consumption engine of the planet. We did not threaten Australia the same way Australia did not threaten us by sailing ships across the Taiwan Strait, conducting live fire exercises with the U.S. and Japan. No matter how high the eagle soars the sky, the serene winds will always surround it. China has and always will respond to U.S. actions with calm and reason. You decide if the future is carried on by a gentle breeze or a howling storm. Brawl games, I already talked about the hukou system. Yes, it is one that is in instant need of reform. And as far as I understand, the Chinese government says that they will reform it. It's like 996 in the hukou system are some of the immediate issues in modern Chinese existence. Thank you, Maoist guy from Ohio, also known as Top G, one of my favorite chatters on this broadcast. Even though his words cut deep, because he says things that I think are utterly unconscionable. He says things about me. He says things about me and my loyalty to the People's Republic that I think are utterly unconscionable and also outright misinformation. Misinformation to such a high degree that Xi Jinping would not allow it on Chinese social media. Okay? Having said that, however, he is very funny, so I allow it. They cut deeply because they're true and truth hurts. No, it's not true.
Is about to kick into overdrive overnight. And what message some...
You calling me a white American would be like me calling you a Greek Arab. Enough with your petulance. You're definitely a white American from Iowa. Ohio, not Iowa. Iowa is a sister state to Shenzhen. I made that up. My words to you are not meant to be hurtful. They are meant to improve you. You will find them cruel only because part of you knows they are true. This is your struggle session, and it's for your own good.
Some of the people around the president think he should and should not be pushing with the American public. CNN's Elena Treen at the White House for us. Elena, this is going to be quite the day. What are you learning?
You're exactly right. It will be.
Quite
Look,
the day
we
it
actually had
is.
some new reporting come out about how, as all of this is, of course, all of these tariffs, people are trying to figure out what exactly is the way out of this. And, markets are responding by being scattered. 401ks are shrinking. We learned that over the weekend, the president's Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, actually flew to Mar-a-Lago and to deliver a message to the president. Essentially, that message, Kate, was that they need to get his team on the same page, but also more clearly explain to the American people what the end game with these tariffs are. And of course, that is trying to get better trade deals with other countries. Now, we did actually hear the president yesterday say that he is open to negotiation. He said he had talked to the Japanese prime minister. He talked to other world leaders as well, and said that he's willing to deal. However, when I have talked to many different White House officials, Trump administration officials about this, they tell me really in the president's eyes, he wants to try and milk these other countries for everything they can get. And his ultimate priority is really to try and erase some of the deficits that America has with these other countries. We've heard the president say as much. Now, all of this, though, of course, comes as a lot of people have been trying to kind of read between the lines of what different top economic.
Yeah, I saw the EU, von der Leyen, saying something along the lines of like, China should not escalate against the United States of America. Keep being a lapdog to American empire, von der Leyen. Keep doing that. That surely has helped the European Union thus far. Donald Trump every day is like, fuck the European Union. It was only created to fuck us over. How dare they? How dare they? They are screwing us over. I will not stop until every European suburb is filled to the brim with F-150 pickup trucks that will mutilate and murder all of your children because the clearance is way too high. It won't fit on your roads, but you will repave all of your roads until the entirety of Barcelona is one big parking lot. And she's out here being like, yeah, it's really fucked up that China is responding in kind to the tariffs with retaliatory tariffs. Can we not do that, please? Trump's like, I will not stop until the European Union is entirely in the hands of the Russian Empire. We will make Tsar Nicholas look like a peacenik. And European leaders are like, no, you don't understand. It's just, this is actually just a mistake. And also China is the wrong party here, not the wronged party.
Advisors here at the White House are saying, there was some mixed messaging over the past several days. Even just yesterday, we heard one of the president's trade advisors, Peter Navarro, say that these tariffs are not a negotiation. Then you've heard Bessent and others say they will be negotiating with some of these key trading partners. Listen to how the president responded to that.
There have been some mixed messages from your administration. You're talking about negotiating.
At what point of fucked up actions will you finally believe Trump is trying to destroy the U.S.? I mean, Trump is trying to destroy the United States in the same way that capitalists have destroyed the United States. He's just doing more of the same thing and doing it in a belligerent manner. That's why I explained before that, like, Trump directionally is not changing the trajectory of American foreign policy and America's goals in undermining China at the global stage in terms of trade. That is not new. That is literally what Obama wanted to do as well. That is what Biden wanted to do as well. Every step that American governments take, whether they are Republican or Democrat, are in that direction. The thing is, Trump absolutely is demonstrating the logical conclusion, once again, accelerating the process in a way that is belligerent. The problem for America is not China. America's enemy is not China. America's enemy is not the Chinese people. America's enemy is global capital. And global capital is the enemy of all nations, as a matter of fact. These people do not have any sort of national loyalties whatsoever. They do not have loyalties to their fellow man. They do not have loyalties to their neighbors. They only have loyalty to the profit incentive. That's it. And they will do anything and everything to continue the profit margins increasing. They will do anything and everything to continue profits growing. That's it. So Donald Trump can fucking act as though he is trying to tackle these like serious enemies at the global stage, but he will never be able to succeed because he does not know who the real enemy is.
Negotiations, and yet others in your administration are saying that these tariffs are actually permanent. What is the action?
Well, it could be. They can both be true. There can be permanent tariffs, and there can also be negotiations because there are things that we need beyond tariffs.
It's so funny. He's getting progressively browner too in the process. He got so brown, ICE is gonna fucking hold him after this. They're gonna nab him when he leaves the fucking Oval Office.
Tariffs.
Now, Kate, one key thing as well to keep in mind, and this is something I've been picking up from officials behind the scenes, is that some people in this White House and administration do believe that the president needs to get some wins on the board, that some deals need to be made in the near term to essentially show the American people.
Dude, there is no deal to be made. There's only simply the appearance of a deal that was made. It's the exact same thing that took place with Canada and Mexico for the past 2 months. There's nothing that genuinely changes in terms of policy internally or externally for any of the countries involved, because the problem that they're talking about is not a real issue that they want to tackle. As long as you go up to him and say, yes, Mr. President, we love what you've done. You're right. Our trade relations are unjust. We will fix it. We will build factories in your country. We will purchase American goods. We are not going to stop until everyone has a Ford F-150 pickup truck. They're just going to say that, and Trump's going to be like, see, I did it. I won. Major victory. That's it. It's the same thing that Claudia Sheinbaum did, where she was like, you see, you were right. We were not tackling the fentanyl crisis in the serious ways that we were supposed to. That's all you need to do. It would be like, yep, see? Here's a chart that says, since you threatened us, we've done more apprehensions.
Is worth waiting for to have them buy in to this tariff plan. And again, as people are really worried about what is happening to the stock market, to their retirement accounts, worried about what's going on with their wallets. So all of that as we see these tariffs expected to go into effect later tonight. Kate?
It seems we are also watching an evolving definition of negotiation, and negotiating is what we seem to be seeing from the president right now. Elena, thank you so much.
Let's talk tariffs. The trade battle between the U.S. and China is ramping up, with Beijing promising to fight to the end. That is really amping up.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, it's scary. Oh, well, if only someone hadn't, kick-started this process. Tomorrow, the markets will find out that he was serious about the tariffs, unless he blinks and pauses some. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe J.D. Pandon will purposely destroy the American economy and start the final stage of American decline, his war with the suburban Treatlerites. Tomorrow we will know. Did you see what this HasanAbi head Redditor made? J.D. Pandon subreddit? Amazing.
And today on Capitol Hill, the U.S. Trade Representative is going to testify in defense of the tariffs that have rattled global markets going on a second week.
Brooke Singman joins us now with all the details. Hey, Brooke.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Jameson Greer will appear before the Senate Finance Committee today to defend.
J.D. Pan is the joint dictatorship of the proletariat oppressed nations. Okay, it's a Maoist concept. I have been saying Donald Trump is a secret Maoist that is tasked with undermining the America empire for quite a while. I don't know where it came from. Like, I mean, I've made jokes about JD Pan like a lot throughout my streaming career, but especially in the last like year, I've been really escalating the JD Pandon memes. JD Pandon refers to memes and discussions that portray the U.S. President Donald Trump as a far-left Maoist third worldist, JD Pan meaning the joint dictatorship of the proletariat of oppressed nations. Although the first instance of this meme can be traced back to 2022, it became widespread after Donald Trump was reelected in November 2024 and began rolling out a series of policy decisions, like announcing tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China that some experts believe could inadvertently benefit China and diminish global American influence. Twitch streamer Hasan Piker and artist fucking Slammer are often credited for popularizing the JD Pandon meme in 2025. In early 2025, memes about JD Pandan spread alongside memes about the Chinese century, which humorously put forth the idea that the 21st century is the time for Chinese. Yeah. On November 28, 2022, ex-user Ricky P. Jones posted an image of Donald Trump edited to resemble Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin alongside text that read, JD Pandan will usher in hashtag MAGA communism. On February 28, 2023, ex-user fucking Slammer posted an image of showing Donald Trump wearing a red bandana with Maoist iconography. The meme received minimal engagement and 500 views in 2 years. Memes joking about Donald Trump being a secret Maoist third worldist on a quest to diminish American hegemony continued the rounds soon after Trump was president of the United States. On November 14th, fucking Slammer posted a collage depicting Donald Trump as a Maoist third worldist. The image was posted in response to a news headline that read, experts say Trump threatened China's tariffs could actually help Beijing weather an economic storm. On January 27th, user Leo's Diores posted a clip of left streamer Hasan saying, that's why I say it's JD Pandan. Trump is a secret Maoist third worldist. He wants the global South to rise up. On March 31st, I mean, I've been saying it way before this, by the way, for the record, which, as you can tell, the video itself implies. But, you know. Yeah. JD Pandan will disrupt the America-Kakan hegemony. The bullet pierced my ear, but I can still hear the voice of the party. Where do you remember first coming across it, the Slammer meme? No, I've been saying this is a leftist meme, chat. It's a universal leftist meme to say that, like, American capitalists are secretly JD Pan because their endless thirst for capitalism is causing America to be destabilized. Donald Trump is not the first person I have said is JD Pan. JD Pan memes have been around for a decade at this point. I've simply been saying that. I've said it about Donald Trump the first term that he was in office. It's just that it's become more popular, I think, this time around because of some of his actions. Because some of his actions are so insane and so belligerent that it causes many people to go, what the fuck is he doing? Is he like the real Manchurian candidate or some shit like that? Search interest increased. Before 2025, liberals would say nothing happened, so it flew over their heads. Well, also, it's because, look at this. On the Hill just now, I asked Besant whether the tariffs going into effect tomorrow are set in stone or a negotiating tactic. They're negotiable, but not a negotiating tactic. Yeah, I used to say it about, of course, obviously, of course, about Henry Kissinger and the OG Satanist, the OG pro-China American president, Nixon.
Trump's tariffs, so he will say in prepared remarks, quote, our large and persistent trade deficit has been over 30 years in the making, and it will not be resolved overnight, but all of this is in the right direction. This adjustment may be challenging at times. It is a moment of drastic overdue change, but I am confident the American people will rise to the occasion as they have done before. Meanwhile, President Trump is threatening to impose a 50% tariff on imports from China starting tomorrow. That is, if Beijing fails to withdraw its 34% retaliatory tariffs by today. But China is not backing down. Its Commerce Ministry warning that, quote, the U.S. threat to escalate tariffs on China is a mistake on top of a mistake and once again exposes the blackmailing nature of the U.S. China will never accept this. If the U.S. insists on its own way, China will fight to the end. If Trump follows through, the total cumulative tariff on China would be a staggering 104%. Despite the sharp sell-offs on Wall Street and global markets, President Trump, though, is calling for patience. And he's come up with a new name for tariff critics, posting on Truth Social, quote, the United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak, don't be stupid, don't be a panickin, a new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the result. Guys, back to you.
Ever heard the word
It's an invention.
I understand.
It's a combo of weak and stupid.
Don't be one.
So the Dow futures, thank you, Brooke. The Dow futures were up 700 points. There's a sense that maybe the president's looking to do a deal. And Scott Bessent indicated yesterday, hey, yeah, I am looking to do that. And I'm going to give.
It's so funny, the hollow, silly nature of finance capital, that they are so incredibly desperate for any kind of sign of a return to norm that they will literally follow through on a fucking meme from Walter Bloomberg, a random blue check mark account, or try to read the tea leaves that Donald Trump will, as a matter of fact, come to terms with these tariffs. Like anything that moves in that direction, everyone is hopping on to be like, oh, see? Yeah, no, nothing ever happens. I promise. Nothing ever happens. I promise nothing ever happens. Please, 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 please. A 1.5-minute video without ever naming the aggressor. They're such pussies. European leaders are such goddamn cowards, dude. I'm sorry. 2 million people trapped with no access to aid or assistance, tens of thousands of dead people, the wounded orphans. This is the reality in Gaza today. Yeah, let me guess. He doesn't say Israel once in this speech.
Japan first dibs. They contacted us first. And then on top of that, the EU said, I have a great idea. Let's just make it zero tariffs. But the president said no to that. We've got too many other imbalances between cars and not taking our cows and our meat. We'll deal with that. But it shows things are going in the right direction. Maybe that's what the market thinks.
Yeah, well, it's interesting.
To be fair to him, he's just having a hard time speaking because he's got a dick in his mouth.
Yesterday, did you hear what he said about Iran? He has negotiations with Iran coming up this Saturday.
Oh, boy.
They have a high-level negotiation with Iran on a potential nuclear deal.
Well, and yesterday the markets finished flat simply because he finally sounded like he was open for a deal. Because there's been so much uncertainty ever since Liberation Day that people have been trying to figure out how big are the tariffs and how long are they going to last? Are they going to be just until we make a deal, or will they be permanent? Because some on the president's team have said they're going to be permanent. But Scott Bessent yesterday said essentially it's time for Monty Hall to make a deal. Watch this.
I haven't seen anything from them, but Larry, I can tell you that there are 50, 60, maybe almost 70 countries now who have approached us. So it's going to be a busy April, May, maybe into June. And Japan is a very important military ally. They're very important.
Dog, if they keep this up until June, the American economy will go into a recession. I'm just being super honest about this, super straightforward, okay? If they keep up the tariffs regime until June, they will not be able to keep it up, but it will be far too late. There's no shot.
An economic ally, and the U.S. has a lot of history with them, so I would expect that Japan's going to get priority just because they came forward very quickly, but it's going to be very busy. And if President Trump, again, gave himself maximum negotiating leverage, and just when he achieved the maximum leverage, he's willing to start talking.
Well, that's going to be interesting because Japan and Israel yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu says, follow my lead. I'm down to zero. It's going to could have cost us $34 billion. Roughly, we'll take a $34 billion hit if the 17% tariff level go into effect. But Japan, Vietnam, the EU, Cambodia, Italy individually, the UK, they're amongst the 70 countries that Bessent said have contacted us to do a deal. And if you see the market responding like this on the rumors of a deal, and then yesterday they erroneously thought that Kevin Hassett told us that he's entertaining a 60-day pause, and the market went back like 500 points for about 15 minutes, you could see how quickly everything would bounce back. And in the end, if people could see what Trump is doing now, he's holding out for the best deal possible, perhaps, even though the New York Post says in the editorial section, start doing a deal, Mr. President. He is staring them down Clint Eastwood style in order to get the maximum deal possible, knowing that China is the main focus, but he's gotten the world's attention to reconfigure trade. Everybody's paying attention now. Nobody can ignore it.
I was down in Florida over the weekend. I saw the president, and he is single-minded. He is in no mood to cave on anything he's doing right now. The problem is for all the people who are terrified to look at their...
Is Brian dying? He can't speak and he looks awful. Brian Kilmeade was one of the only Fox anchors that directly put his reputation on the line by, ironically, betting on the wrong horse. He was the Ron DeSantis guy. He was like, Ron DeSantis will save us. I'm going to take the initiative. I'm going to go out and I'm going to play baseball with him. So I think all of his fears are being realized in front of his eyes. So he's basically trying to, not criticize Donald Trump too much after a dear leader like that. but also simultaneously is trying to at least be like, yeah, this doesn't seem to be too good. I think that's the conflict. Like, look at his face. Every time he's in front of the camera, this is what he looks like.
Their 401ks is they want to know. Okay, so right now you can see the Dow futures are up 643. How far is it going to go back up, and how long is it going to take? I was at a town event down in South Florida over the weekend, and I met this guy, and he's a retired banker. And I asked him about the tariffs because at that event, everybody was talking about the tariffs because everybody's on a fixed income for the most part, and they were talking about how they're impacted. He said, I'm on a pension, and the pension amount doesn't change. But I looked at my 401k, and I am so underwater now. And he had the look of a guy. He was probably in his 80s. He's hoping that this all works and it all comes back.
And imagine if it does work and it comes back.
Well, that would be great, but he's broke right now.
In a huge way. Well, he probably has other money coming in, right? Is he just relying on that?
But imagine if the market bounces back. It's going to come back in a huge way. Just imagine. Hey, I know things are looking really bad, but imagine a world where things looked good instead.
Okay, but Trump did say, we need to be strong, we need to be courageous, and we need to be patient. Just let him do his thing. And he said he's not considering the pause on tariffs because remember Bill Ackman, you were talking about that yesterday, said he should consider that 90-day timeout. Yeah. He said he's not going to do that. In fact, he's doubling down on China. China has these retaliatory tariffs, and he said if you don't get rid of those, then I'm going to tariff you another 50%. So that could be as much as 104%.
Right. It's Tariff Tuesday.
You know what Apple said? We're going to move a lot of our production to India.
To India, right.
That's exactly the hope. We got to pull the American companies out of that.
Well, they
country.
should move it to the United States.
Be
much
even
easier.
Better.
I'm Steve Ducey.